So my name is Sakshi and I will be taking you through the AILET 2024 analysis for the day. Going ahead, the first take. What was the first reaction of students when they came out and how did they find the entire question paper, the entire experience of 2 hours? Well, in the first instances, the students found it slightly easy as compared to the last year. In fact, for the last year, the AILET was slightly difficult as compared to 2022. So from 2022, it went on to 2023 with the level of difficulty. And again, it has come down to a slightly moderately difficult paper. That was one thing. Secondly, AILET last year was pretty lengthy in nature. In the sense, the passages were so difficult, passages were very lengthy to read, to comprehend. This time, it was not the same case. The passages were relatively easy. In fact, you could find passages which were based on the general current events around you. Even the English and the logical reasoning was comparatively easy. So the first take is that paper is easy, but of course not as easy as CLAT 2024. Secondly, the three sections were properly divided without causing any sort of confusion that this particular passage belongs to what section or what question belongs to what particular section. Nothing like that. It was properly bifurcated, it was properly structured, and students found it pretty easy to go through or navigate through the entire set of question paper. So moving ahead, to understand, yeah, I'll just put it all on the screen before we read. Starting with English. So English was pretty easy. It had 50 questions and majority of the questions were directly from the passages. There were relatively good amount of questions on vocab. So anybody who has gone through or solved a lot of questions on vocab, it generally improved their vocab, had a good advantage here. In fact, when we talk about passages from English, the passages were pretty easy in the sense that there was a passage on National Health Survey, there was another passage on some creators, some event around creators. So in general, it was easy to comprehend. Coming to logical reasoning was easy but lengthy. In fact, out of 70 questions, there were just 9 questions based on analytical reasoning, and rest of the questions were completely verbal reasoning. Now, when I talk about verbal reasoning section and the questions of verbal reasoning, it had somewhere around 7-8 questions based on law. Now, you might have, especially the students who are not so well versed with the pattern, or in fact, this was your first attempt or maybe as a trial attempt. Everybody keeps saying that the entire legal section is not there in AILET, but that's not true. All of the time, the logical reasoning has some questions which are based on legal reasoning. So this time also, the legal reasoning had questions based on fraud. It had questions based on vicarious liability, strict liability, trespass. So in general, one who is going for AILET should be well aware of the legal basic concepts, the basic concepts of torts, the basic concepts of constitution. In fact, when I talk about law, there was a couple of questions based on Supreme Court, the passing away of Judge Fatima Bibi in the GK section. So yes, while we are going for a National Law University exam, there cannot be a situation that there would never be a question based on law. So law does appear in certain other sections in a very smaller, here bitten manner. Coming to the logical reasoning, the verbal section. The verbal section had questions based on statement, assumptions, arguments, and generally it was heavy on verbal reasoning with very few questions on analytical. As I mentioned, hardly 9 questions. And those 9 questions were also from the coding, decoding part and the conditionality. So majority of logical reasoning was verbal reasoning. And in that verbal reasoning, also it was easy but lengthy in a manner that once you find the questions, you would be able to answer directly from the passage, but it's just that the length of the questions was slightly bigger than the normal. Coming to current affairs, as AILET is all the time, AILET never ever asks you just current affair questions, never. In fact, even before changing the pattern, even before changing the cycle of the exam, AILET has always been about heavy on static affairs, heavy on certain details of current affairs which are completely based on static. So Maybe if there is some dispute regarding certain rivers, they will come back and ask you what is the longest river, like they had a question this time. There was a proper question and a mixture of all the areas from literature to sports to international law, everything. So there were questions on G20 and SARC. There was a question on T20 league. There was also a question for Nobel Prize. There were questions based on Fatima Bibi. There was question based on certain other elements which kept happening around the year, but not necessarily the current part of it. Majority of the questions had some touch, some sense of history, some sense of background. So all the students going ahead and preparing for AILET 2025, they have to be very, very careful about this aspect, that when you're going and preparing for current affairs, you will have to ensure, you will have to make sure that you go through the complete details part of it, the complete background story, the complete history of it. Now, coming to the most important part here, what is going to be a good attempt? Like, what is the good attempt in this particular paper, and what should I be expecting as a cutoff? So, talking about the good attempt has to be at least above 105 to 110. In fact, slightly above 110, considering it's a 150 marks question paper. One thing. Secondly, last year the cutoff was slightly high, given into account the difficulty level of the question paper. This time it's not going to be the same case. It's going to be slightly less. So expecting a cutoff somewhere around 80, 88, 90 would be a good thing. And also considering the lesser number of seats, there's hardly 50 seats for the general category. So considering a very small amount of seats for general category and very small amount of, like students getting into NLU Delhi, the cutoff, the max, like the last you can get admission would be somewhere around 80, 88 or 90 marks. Okay. Talking about the category. So for the category, the ranks could go slightly, higher. So last time I remember somewhere around 1700, some ranks that was like, closed down for the categories. This time it could be a bit more. So in general, the paper was easy. In general, definitely not easy as CLAT 2024, but compared to last 2 years, it was easy. It was moderate. In fact, the one good thing that I really liked about the paper was it was very interesting to solve. Half of the time it happens that the passages and the questions are so monotonous based on certain information that you don't want to read, you don't want to solve. But here, with each passing question, there was some sense of new thing coming in, some sense of new information that was tested, and it was generally a very interesting paper to go through, an interesting paper to solve. Now, coming to what next. So considering that AILET is done, CLAT is done, and majority of you would be going for your board exams, and for all other law entrances, SLAT, MHCT, LSAT, you have significant amount of time. Before that, before you move and want to do, you plan to do what to do next, we have a session for you, which is what after AILET. So we have a common session, what after CLAT and what after AILET, on 16th of December. A bit about this session. The session is all about what to do next. In fact, if you are one of those who have, like kind of not performed so well, and you are full of anxiety considering that you might not be able to get the desirable rank, this is a session for you to understand what to do next. What are the exams that you can target? What are other things that you can prepare? And what are other alternate options, the plan Bs available for you? So I'm not going to take a lot of time. The CLAT results would be out today. The AILET exam is already over. The two things that I expect from you is, one, await the CLAT results. Hope you perform well. Things are absolutely fine. And secondly, come and join us for this particular session. I have a couple of comments here. Should I be worried if you have only attempted 90 questions? Not so much, considering that if the accuracy is amazing, and if you are absolutely sure about majority of the answers you have marked, there are high chances that you might get. But again, 90 attempts was pretty less comparing to the question paper that it was for 150 marks. So 90 attempts is slightly less. What would be the good number of attempts? The good number of attempts, as I told you already, it has to be at least 105 to 110 plus. So out of 150 questions, there should be at least 105, 110 questions attempted by all the students. All right. So with this, I would want you to register for this particular event, and I'll see you again in this event where we discuss what to do after CLAT and AILET. And once the CLAT and AILET is over, what are the fun things that you can prepare and go ahead with. I'll see you in the next session. Thank you.